Yo, what's good? This is Chris, owner of Stafford Studios, back with the second episode of our new podcast, Music, Movies, and Modern Entrepreneurs. I'm so stoked about this episode. Me and some friends got together and did a review of episodes 1 and 2 of the brand new Star Wars series, Ahsoka, on Disney+. This podcast may drop a week or two after the 2 episodes have premiered, simply because I'm just so busy with my work right now, and I've been trying to get all of this podcast stuff under wraps. So I have 2 really, really good friends and 1 family member who's actually on this podcast with me. My son, Grayson Stafford, really, really good friend of mine, Zany Madcap, a great musician as well, but a massive Star Wars fan. And I've been pronouncing his last name wrong for several years, but I've known him for over 10 years. Jake Turberville, massive, massive Star Wars fan, pretty much family member to me. I love this guy to death. So I'm excited to have Zany, Jake, and Grayson on this podcast today, talking about the first 2 episodes of Ahsoka. So I'm really excited about this. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you know whenever these podcast episodes drop. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy today's episode about Ahsoka.
This is a moneymaker. Like it's still a business. It's still a business. Star Wars is still a business, and Star Wars has been around since the 70s. So obviously it stands the test of time. And if they keep throwing so much at us, people are going to get sensitized to it, or desensitized to it, and not want to watch it as much. That's why they've done so well with how they've released things.
All right, so this is our first podcast. Want to introduce who we have on our panel. It's going to be video-wise on YouTube as well, but like on Spotify and stuff. So some of you may be watching, maybe listening. We've been talking about this forever. My name's Chris, and my son Grayson over here. The one and only Zany Madcap is joining us.
Woo, Zany!
And Jake Turberville. Is it Turberville or Turberville?
Turberville.
It's Turberville? Yeah. No, it's not. With an R?
Yeah.
Like Turbo?
Yeah.
How long have you known him?
We've known each other for.
I'm not his.
No, but nobody gets my last. It's Turberville, but I've never. Well, you want to what? My ID's in my car, but yeah, it's
Turberville?
T-U-R.
I've had you in my phone as Tub.
Well, my
Turberville.
Nickname is Tubbs, so it's nobody has ever spelled my last name right. I just go with it.
Well, I feel like a horrible friend.
You should never feel like a horrible friend.
Well, I do. I didn't even, like I was saying, I'm glad I even asked, because I almost said Turberville. Jake Turberville. So all of us just got done watching the Ahsoka episode 2. These guys are like incredible friends, because last night we were supposed to meet up and watch both episodes together, and we didn't because I'm a terrible friend. We got called into work at Tug Life, not Thug Life, Tug Life. And so we canceled. We all watched the first episode on our own, and then we decided as friends and loyal friends that we would not watch a second episode. So we met up tonight. I got delayed by another job, and we started watching the episode late. So anyways, we just wanted to give our thoughts on both episodes for those Star Wars nerds who are out there watching and listening. These guys love Star Wars. I value their opinion. They're great friends, but they're also just great Star Wars enthusiasts. So it's super late. Jake's got to drive all the way back to
Mobile.
Mobile. Okay.
Yeah.
Mobile.
Or Turberville. I left the R out.
Or Sims, Wilmer,
or
whatever.
Sims, Wilmer.
You know, out there. I'm a ways away.
Balabatry, Dolphin Island, I don't know, Mobile. So he's got to go drive back. So we're going to make this quick. We're going to do some other ones that'll be a little more in depth, but it's super late. Everybody's had like a crazy long day. And so I just wanted to introduce our panel. These guys are great. They know so much about Star Wars. They love Star Wars. And so when I was thinking, I've been talking to Jake for years about doing a podcast, and known Zany for years. And we went to countless Star Wars movies together, and me and Jake have gone on movies. So the first part of this podcast basically was going to be about music, movies, and modern entrepreneurs. So we're on the movies part. So anything TV shows, movies, entertainment, that's kind of what this is about. So anybody out there who loves Star Wars, if you haven't seen Ahsoka, go see it. It's amazing. So I'm going to open it up to Jake and Zany first, let them talk, and just kind of, what are your thoughts first off, like beyond expectations, lower than expectations? I mean, what are y'all's initial thoughts after, because we literally just stopped watching episode 2, like credits rolled, we came up here, hit record. Yeah, so we just came up here, we haven't even talked about it yet. So what are y'all's first thoughts on this first 2 episodes?
It is 100% a continuation of Rebels. and I love it. Like, expectations, just off of episode 1, I was like, this is about to be amazing. I love that Filoni is writing it. I loved Rebels probably more than anything else that came out in the recent years. And knowing that this is basically another season of Rebels, it's just called Ahsoka, and they're sticking to everything. And I'm like, yes, this is great. I have a lot of questions, and I feel like this season is going to answer those questions because, like, Sabine's a Padawan. Like, that, I'm very excited about that. But as we saw in episode 2, she is not force sensitive, is what I'm getting from the robot.
Or she's at least sucks at it. Like,
she's very terrible at it.
Kind of like Ezra was at first in Rebels when he was like still like stealing stuff.
Yeah, but he had raw talent. Like he had the raw force that he could just do things. She ain't got that.
Well, I even made a comment to Jake during the second episode. Like, it just feels like I'm watching Rebels. Like, the cinematography of like how they frame certain buildings and certain ships like flying and taking off. Like, I literally feel like I'm watching an episode of Rebels. And he's like, yeah, because Filoni like created it and is directing it.
Yeah.
And Jon Favreau is doing a lot of it too. But like, it feels so faithful to the source material. Like, it feels like it's very obvious that the same person who wrote Rebels.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
Like, even in the first episode where like, sorry, Zany, I'm gonna let you talk.
That's fine, man.
I'm geeking out over here. But even the first episode when Ezra's in the hologram and he's talking to Sabine and he like leans down and kind of scratches his head, like he does those things. And so it's like, it's just super cool to see like paying homage to, I think if they would have had any other director or writer come in and do this series, it wouldn't have been as
felt
impactful.
It's just a continuation. That's it. How they ended Rebels, where Ahsoka comes and Sabine's standing in front of the thing. That was that in this episode when she came back and was at the thing at the mural. That was a direct callback to the last episode of Rebels, where she was like, "We're gonna find Ezra."
Yeah.
And now they're actually
Finding
they
Ezra.
got something. Well, we don't know what's going on with Ezra.
I've just got one thing the thing that struck me the most from episode 1, opening scene. I mean, it's an immediate callback to the original trilogy. The first scene, large ship approaching from behind. It fills up the screen. Okay, perfect. That's exactly what I needed. And then, of course, a Lambda class shuttle just appears out of nowhere. So that's that made it for me. I'll just shut up now and let somebody else tell.
No,
Oh, no, I like that. I like that too. Yeah.
You're gonna hear random dogs on this podcast because I have 3 ridiculously annoying dogs, and they may bark. So it's just so everything just feels like Star Wars. I know there's a lot of we could talk forever about other shows, and like, you know, there was a lot of people who really liked the Boba Fett series, and there's some episodes felt great, some episodes didn't, and it's just like it's just so consistent, man. It's like it literally, I just feel like George Lucas and Dave Filoni just like threw up on the table just these great ideas, and they executed it with like excellence. It's so good. It's just executed so well, and it's like the pacing is good. Like, it doesn't feel slow.
Doesn't feel rushed either.
Yeah, I mean, it just it feels good. The pacing feels good. it feels like a true Rebels episode, and I think that's awesome because that's what a lot of people, when you see these characters like Sabine, and I know we haven't seen Zeb in this show yet, but like, you know, you're immediately brought back to those like emotions and those memories of watching the show and the pacing of Rebels, and it's like they continue that pacing. You know, as a videographer, it's like the editing and how they pace the scenes, it just feels so fluid.
Yeah, and even in episode 1, the I guess like the mayor or leader of Lothal, that's the same guy that voiced the character.
The character,
in,
the governor
Yeah,
that was in the
same
jail
guy.
that broke out with Ezra's parents. That's the same, that he voiced the same character. That's the same guy.
So think of that. They brought him in. He's perfect age, and he's been in everything under the sun for the past 40 years.
Yeah, he was even in the John Wick. Like,
he's been in everything.
Yeah, he's
so
yes.
For them to take a voice actor, bring them into a live character actor, and playing the same exact role.
Well, that's what they did with Thrawn.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. They've done
I
that
cannot
in
wait
so
to see
many
Thrawn.
ways. But that's why, for one, Disney's done so well with a lot of things they've bought. They put people that actually care about the content in charge. So you've got Filoni, who's running the show these days. I mean, yes, George Lucas is involved, but Filoni is running it. And then you've got Favreau, who just knows so much about it, who cares so much about it. When they direct episodes and when you have people that truly care about it, even, I mean, you can take that into The Mandalorian, when you have Bryce Dallas Howard. When she directs them, like, you can tell she knows the content. She cares about what she's putting out. Her episodes have been some of the best, in my opinion. But these two with Filoni and Favreau, perfect.
Blown us out the water so
I
far.
like that they use different directors in The Mandalorian, but you could tell it's not that there were any bad episodes. I mean, I understand that some stories are slower paced than the others, but I agree with you completely. You can tell when Filoni's got his hand in it, and you can tell when, like, Bryce Dallas Howard, like, when she directed, like, man, it's so...
She has such a, like, she's done how many episodes? 2 or 3? And every one of them have been better.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how else to say it. They just have been. And then the last one Filoni did in The Mandalorian was the one where Zeb was in it, and he was actually sitting in the bar that Zeb was in.
I remember seeing something about that. He was like a stand-in, or
he just saw him with his hat. You could see
yeah,
his
yeah,
hat.
he's got that
always
hat,
with
that signature
so
hat.
He was just sitting there. He was a
like a filler, like,
he was a filler. He was just sitting in the bar. That was it.
That's so cool. I remember him. I remember hearing about that.
Grayson, what are your thoughts, man?
Like the highway part where she was riding her bike, like, that was almost in every single episode of Rebels. And you can tell, like, on the old communications tower, like, in the background and everything, and even, like, the Lothcats, right? Like, it was just so cool, like...
Even the sound, like, that when that speeder bike is on that stretch of the highway, like, it's a significant sound. Well, even when Sabine was, like...
When she scraped it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, when she's in the hospital after she got stabbed, which I don't know how she survived, but anyways. She's laying in the bed. Zany pointed out, like, that's not where she got stabbed. Like,
It's not.
But even, like, the background noise of, like, the machines, it's the same sound from Empire Strikes Back when Luke is in the little back the tank, and it's like those sound effects are just like, it just, like, those are the things that I love. It's like the amazing details of every detail, and it's just, those are the things that as a kid, us three literally grew up watching them, and certain sound effects like a TIE fighter or a speeder bike on Endor, like when I hear those noises, it immediately brings me back to those memories. And so just the fact that the directors didn't have to put that in, but they even had, like, the medical droid standing next to the other. And so it's just like those things really just make me excited and just proud to be, like, a Star Wars fan. And I know people are going to nitpick, anything and everything, but it's just, to me, those are the details that I love, because it's like, they didn't have to do that, but, like, they did. You know what I'm saying? Like, they didn't have to do that, but, like, they were like, we're going to put this sound in.
They went the extra mile.
Yeah, they did. It's like, because they know fans like us are going to hear those sound effects, and, like, and I don't know. Zany, I need you to talk more. Tell me your thoughts and feelings.
I don't like being too negative, but I can't say everything positive. I felt her running down with the speeder bike down the pathway there. When they were trying to get her to stop and come back, it was Sabine. I felt it was really Top Gun-ish.
Like an angle of her on the bike and her looking at the
whole scene. I didn't see a need for it. It just seemed like a scene to, I'll show you, I can do this, and you're nothing I can do. I don't know, it didn't seem necessary. And that's one.
I wasn't feeling the scene until the very end when the pilot looked at her and he was like, I'll let you go. She kind of took off. But visually it was cool.
I like how they're, like, portraying her personalities from the show. In the show, she was very stubborn and, like, bold and, like exactly how she is in the real action show. And I just like how they're including that, because it's showing how stubborn she is.
Well, she's a Mandalorian. I mean,
true.
Through and through, she's a Mandalorian. She's not going to do what anybody tells her to do.
I'm excited to see what happened between Ahsoka.
Yes.
I am. That's my biggest question, and they've got to touch on it because it has something to do with Ezra. That's very clear. You know that she was training her as a Padawan, and that didn't work out. At the end of Rebels, Ahsoka was not a Jedi. She was not claiming to be a Jedi, and she was saying, "No, I left the Order. She's more of a gray Jedi than anything," which is, I still think she's going that route, and I think that's where Sabine would go, and as well, because if you're being trained by somebody that's a gray Jedi, that's where you're probably going to go. But I'm really interested in that because that's a totally different. She would be the second Mandalorian that wielded a lightsaber, technically, like a true Mandalorian. She would be the second one, and then you have Grogu, who is a Mandalorian, but he's a Mandalorian now, but he's going to wield a lightsaber at some point. So
He has to.
I mean, it's going to happen. If Sabine truly is wielding a lightsaber, which I know she had the dark saber in Rebels, but that was more of a power thing.
She did train with the darksaber though.
She did with Ezra. So she's been trained by Ezra. Now
Kanan.
And now she's being trained by Ahsoka with her own lightsaber. So it's very interesting, and I want to know more about it.
I'll say when she ignited that green lightsaber and she was fighting the Inquisitor or the robot. No, it was the
girl.
Yeah, the girl.
The girl.
It's like something about seeing a green and red saber just always brings me back to Return of the Jedi.
Good.
It's like
so good.
I mean, it's awesome. Like, and I know that
it brings back Luke and Vader.
Yeah, it just something about seeing those two colored sabers on a one-on-one fight it just does something to me.
Two things. Speaking of the Inquisitor, I wonder how, because this is after Return of the Jedi, Palpatine's gone, Empire's in shambles, Vader's gone. How are there still Inquisitors going on when the two people holding lightsabers claim themselves as mercenaries? Because they said that they were hired by the girl. So I wonder how.
So yeah, think about it. Palpatine's not technically gone. He's on that other planet.
That's a great point.
Building his fleet.
The last Empire.
Their clone. I mean, that's where all this goes together with the Mandalorian and this, because you know that the Empire is secretly building something in the background. So I like the sequels, but this
I don't. I mean, I like some of them.
I like.
There was moments. It had its moments.
They did a lot of things. They didn't treat certain characters how they needed to be treated. Yeah.
I'm sorry. We're not gonna. This is not what this is about.
Ray Skywalker.
But I have a feeling. I have a feeling that Ahsoka is, by the end of this season, or if they do another season, it's going to lead into what we see.
Like,
of course.
Well, that'll come up, but like I have a feeling it's going to set up a lot of things we didn't know about the Final Order and how they were infiltrated into the Republic, which we saw in this episode, how you go to one station and the whole thing is an empire. It's an Empire fleet, but oh no, we're recovered Imperials that are working for the Republic because we care about money. Yeah. No, yeah, you're greedy, but you're for the Empire. So you're totally building all this stuff, doing things off the books to help build Palpatine's fleet.
Yeah.
Or get ready for Admiral Thrawn to come back, because that's the rumor in the galaxy. So, which from what I know about Thrawn is he was very, very powerful, and he plays a big part in the whole timeline up until the sequel, until the Final Order. And so I'm interested to know what happens with that. I hope they do multiple seasons, because there's so much they could keep doing. Or they could just say, okay, Ahsoka, and then season 2 is, okay, we're back to Rebel. We're just gonna go back. Yes, because you'll get. Hopefully, we get Ezra back, and I
think he's gonna show up at the last episode.
I wonder.
I don't want that to happen, but
it might.
It probably will.
They've already shown his face in the hologram or the blue thing, and I'm like, so we've seen his face, and I'm like, I just hope we get at least 2 good episodes with him, 2 or 3. Like,
yeah.
I don't want it to be a last episode.
But like, here's the thing: if Ezra. Sorry, this is off topic, but if Ezra and Thrawn both went to the galaxy, how
are they separated?
Yeah, how are they separated? Because they were on the same ship, and they went to the same place at the same time.
I don't think they are separated. I think Thrawn has Ezra like in a cell. Don't
sure, that's a good point, because if Sabine has his lightsaber, he has no way to defend himself besides the Force. But Thrawn
is a bad mamma jamma, and he is a straight up.
He's like the Star Wars version of John Wick.
Well, so
they killed his dog.
So from what I know, so if we want to bring in like past stuff, Thrawn fought with Anakin during the Clone Wars on one of the things. So he knew who Vader was. He knew that he was Anakin Skywalker. That's going to come up in this season. There's no way around it, because now that Ahsoka has a Padawan, they're obviously going to talk about how Anakin was her master. That's going to happen. Thrawn was one of the most intelligent when it came to war tactics. He was. There's no ways around that. So if Ezra outsmarted him, only because he had the Force and he had those sensitivities with animals, like that's the only reason why he outsmarted him. He knew that if he sat there, got those space whales, I don't know exactly what they're called, but and they showed those in episode 2 in the behind the clouds.
They did. I saw that.
See that?
Yeah, you heard the noises.
Oh yeah,
You're gonna have to go back and watch that.
saw him behind the clouds. So he outsmarted Thrawn, not by being a great tactician.
Tactically.
Yeah, tactically he didn't outsmart him. He just was like, oh, I got the Force on my side, and these things are Force sensitive. We're taking ourselves to another galaxy because they're about to jump. That was it. That's the only reason why Lothal was saved. And he went without anything. So yeah, you get to where you're going. What do you think is going to happen? You're going to be overpowered. You're going to be thrown in a cell. So I think they're together. I think they are going to. It's going to run their fates are intertwined. So whatever happens to Thrawn is going to happen to Ezra, which is sad, but
and I like that from a storytelling side of it, you've got two missions. It's like obviously Ahsoka and Sabine and everybody, they're trying to find Ezra, and then you've got the same
and stop Thrawn
where they're trying to find Thrawn. So it's like you see the light side and the dark side both searching for this thing, and so it's like it's cool because you get to see
both sides of it.
I don't know what planet they were on
with the red trees. I couldn't tell either. It looked on the map. It looked like towards the outskirts of the galaxy. Which, if the people that built the little shrine area, whatever you want to call it, on the planet, I wonder if the people that built it are in the galaxy that Thrawn and Ezra are in. If they went back to build, or if they just stayed there and. There's so many questions.
I think it's the Sisters of Dathomir. Yeah,
Dathomir. Oh, that's
I'm pretty sure. Point. Well, because she said that Morgan says in episode 1 that's her ancestors.
Correct me if I'm wrong. In like the season of Mandalorian, where Ahsoka first shows up and she kills all those dudes in the woods, and she has a one-on-one. That's the girl that
had the spear.
Beskar.
The spear, the Beskar spear. Yeah, that's her.
Same
because they had those same robots and everything. Yeah, I think that's the same girl.
Ahsoka did not kill her. She took her and gave Mando the Beskar spear, and they took her. So we're picking up from there, basically, is that they were transporting her, and she got out.
Broke her out of prison in the first.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Which I'm not convinced that the two people that broke her out, I'm not convinced they're Inquisitors. I think they've got from just seeing how they are. She is wearing the she's got the Padawan braid. Yes, they have red lightsabers, but he was trained as a Jedi. Even in the last moments, he says it would be a shame to kill Ahsoka Tano because she's one of the last Jedi. And she said something, and he goes, "No, it's the truth." Like,
bro, yes.
And I think they've got an ulterior motive for when Thrawn gets back. I think that they're bad and they are mercenaries, but I don't want to say that they are Inquisitors or Sith or anything like that, because it could be that they've just went down a bad path.
Because what I got from her is that she was almost like second guessing the lady in charge. Like whenever she was like witchcraft and all that, so she was like, "You're a witch," and she was like, "No," and something like that. So what I took from her, from the girl with the white hair, is that she was second guessing and not fully trusting the witch girl.
Well, when she was even asking like, what does that mean for us? He was like, when Thrawn returns, it's going to be war.
Power.
People, it's going to be this and power. And she's like, well, what does that mean for us? So it's kind of like they're almost classifying. I think that's a great point. It's like they're almost classifying themselves. They're not rebels. They're not, Empire. They're like in this gray area.
Yes, like a gray instead of being a great Jedi, they're almost like a gray Sith, so where they're almost like in the middle, like don't know where they're at yet.
They want the power. And that can mean so many things when it comes to Star Wars. Because, I mean, they could think that Ezra is the power if they get him back. That's what they could think.
That's a good point.
Because you know that Sabine and Syndulla and Ahsoka, they want Ezra back because they love him, they care about him. Well, what if you go back to, and this is, I know we all know now that Leia got trained as a Jedi, but she did not follow that path. Well, Yoda always said, no, there's another. Well, years later, we find out, oh, well, here's Ezra. Him and Luke are roughly around the same age.
Because remember in Rebels when Yoda and Ezra met in the first time, it was first in the Jedi Temple on Lothal. Then he heard his voices. Then it was in the space area. Remember I told you I got like the space thing? I think him and Ezra have a connection because Yoda was like, there's another, I like that point how Leia, but technically she wasn't, she walked away kind of like Ahsoka did. So I think what Yoda meant by another was Ezra, and by Yoda reaching out to Ezra was him being the second one. So I think Ezra and Luke might have something going on. Because, yes.
Then they do the face thing. 1,000% that should happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because even in Rebels, they had an episode where Leia was in it.
Yeah, they had a few.
And then they had an episode where Luke was in it, because it was the one where Maul and Obi-Wan finalized everything. That was the best way to say it. I mean,
well, I'm not gonna lie.
Epic scene.
Yes.
It was an epic scene. I mean, it was amazing.
Emotional.
It was amazing. But I think that with them, because it's so, like, it's too easy just to be like, oh yeah, they're Inquisitors. Yes, they've got an Inquisitor with them now, and that's fine, but old dudes hold on to a lot of Jedi, like,
he's on because he's
the one that they dedicated the first episode to.
He did. He passed away.
Ray. So his name, the actor's name is Ray, and he passed away a couple weeks or months ago. And at the end of episode 1, it said for our friend Ray. So it's in his memory, which sucks that he's gone. But I mean, it's still cool to see one of his last projects.
Yeah, be something so cool. And back to him, he did go back to where he was like back in the Jedi Order. He was talking about past events, how he learned things from the Jedi Order. He was like fairy tales, and like we learned that this was like so and so. So
he's obviously carrying some past of some Jedi.
Well, he made it through Order 66.
Yeah,
you gotta think. Like, he made it through Order 66, and he has a Padawan.
Bro, what if Cal Kestis shows up in this?
If Cal Kestis shows up in this, we're gonna have a good freaking
What if
show.
there's like Luke, Ahsoka,
Cal, and Ezra,
Sabine,
and they're like Jedi Academy.
So good.
I don't know.
What if
I know some people don't play the video games or the,
we do
Fallen Order. But I'm just saying some people don't. So, but like Cal Kestis is a youngling who basically
he survived.
He survived Order 66 and kind of became a Jedi and has been living off the map.
What if? Because remember in The Last Jedi, when Luke was like, I did have Academy, and Ben was in it, and Ben took some people with him. So that must have been the Knights of Ren. But like the people he killed, what if it was actually like what if Ezra was in that academy? Like, what if the people training now or Jedis now were in Luke's academy? So like Ezra, what if Grogu was in there? What if Cal was in there, like in the academy that Luke was training, and then left?
I don't think Grogu would be there.
Yeah, did he?
He's done. Yeah, he's done. But he knows how to wield a lightsaber, so he's going to have one. That's just going to happen.
His Mandalorian daddy's going to show him how to swing that.
Exactly. I mean,
cuts people in half.
But you could be very right about that. That whenever the whole fallout with Kylo Ren, Ben, and Luke happened, we don't know who all was at the academy. But we know that they were building it when we saw where they were building.
Or what if like they were mentors or something? What if like Ezra was teaching Force-sensitive kids?
It's very
because remember when
possible.
they were on the gambling planet, and then there was a kid. I'm so way off topic right now, but remember where they were like on the gambling planet, and at the end, at the horses, there was the little kid that looked up. or something like that.
With the
with the broom. Yes, he was like someday or something like that. I remember that too.
Yeah.
That's how that would go. Because and they're talking about doing another one. And it's weird that she was like, I'm Rey Skywalker, which I mean, I doubt she wants to be Rey Palpatine. People are going to like,
Stay away from her.
Your grandpa's a murderer.
Hitler, can we say?
Pretty terrible. But
what's your last?
I'd drop that last name too.
But yeah,
that's a good point.
I would for sure drop that last name. But I do think like there's so many. This can't be all packed into one season. Disney does not do that. They know this.
They make you wait.
Well, this is a money maker. Like it's still a business. It's still a business. Star Wars is still a business, and Star Wars has been around since the 70s. So obviously it stands the test of time. And if they keep throwing so much at us, people are going to get sensitized to it or desensitized to it and not want to watch it as much. That's why they've done so well with how they've released things. I mean, Boba Fett was basically a pause saying, oh, we're going to show you a little bit about Boba Fett, but it's really like a continuance of Mandalorian, because once Mando got involved, you're like, Boba Fett's cool, but Mando's here.
Yeah. And there were some great moments in that.
There were some amazing moments in it.
There were some amazing moments where I explained like what happened to him and all that, but it was a mid-show, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not the best Star Wars show. Like, as of right now, the best Star Wars show is Mandalorian, but Ahsoka, after 2 episodes, bringing with everything they brought in, a live action show, because Rebels is one of the best shows.
Andor was pretty good. It was Andor.
Oh yeah,
Andor was good. It was just
different.
There was no Jedi in it. It was truly about the rebel and becoming. And I've heard they were going to make a possible season 2 of Andor. I don't know. I mean,
it's going to be
if they do, it'll lead straight into.
It's just hard to have Star Wars without Jedi or lightsabers. I know you can, but it's
hard.
It's just such a staple of the franchise. It's like, so when I see Ahsoka like freaking slicing through robots,
that just gets me hyped up. You know, like
no, it's perfect. Like I mean, it is like
we need shows like Andor so that when shows like this come along, we can
appreciate it.
You appreciate it, yeah. So I just want to touch real quick again on the actual Ahsoka show, that Rosario Dawson, when she was cast and she first showed up in Mandalorian, she was great and I loved her in every second, but like I still saw her as an actress, I guess because I've seen her in so many other things, but like episode 2, like I saw Ahsoka.
Yes,
she has picked up, she's done so many of the mannerisms that Ahsoka does in the show. Like she's always calm, she's always got her hands folded, she's
calm,
always,
collected, always hidden
and like thinking hidden about things.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's not that she didn't do a good job. I'm just saying, for me, I guess it just took time. Like when Chris Evans was cast as Captain America, like all I saw was Human Torch. You know, because it's like Chris Evans was like, he played another Marvel character.
Yeah, hot.
Movies. And so it's just like, at first I was like, all I saw was Chris Evans. I didn't see Steve Rogers. But now every time I see Chris Evans, I'm like, that's freaking Steve Rogers. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of how I feel about Ahsoka. It's like the first couple times I saw her, as great as the makeup and the headset and everything is, it was like, she did great. And, you know, her mannerisms, everything is just great about it. But like something about her eyes, I feel like from episode 1 to episode 2, like even her eyes changed. Like there was parts at
her eyes just tell a story, you know, like.
Well, I wasn't going there, but that's a great deep thought, Grayson.
That's what I took from it. Like that's what I took.
The shape of her eyes, but it was like something about, like she literally, there were times where she looked like, and I know they didn't do this, but it looked like it looked like her face was kind of physically matching Ahsoka from the cartoon, and it was just really cool. Like I didn't see Rosario Dawson, like one of my favorite movies is The Dark Knight, and I never saw Heath Ledger as the Joker. It was always the Joker, and I think that's what made him so good in that too, is like you didn't see him as the actor. So anyway, I think she's the perfect age. I think she's the perfect actress to do it. And this was episode 2 was the first time that I was like, I forgot who was playing Ahsoka. I strictly saw the character. It was like, so it was really cool. Like, I mean, there's no hate. I'm not saying she's not perfect. Everyone out there is going to cancel me, but I'm not saying she's not perfect. It's nothing she did or the story. It was just me personally. Because she's been in so many things. Like even she was in Daredevil for a couple seasons. It was like I just see her, and sometimes when you have a famous actor or actress that's been in other things, that's all you see when you see them on screen. And so, but the first episode was great too. But there were just moments in this that I literally was like, I didn't think that I was looking at Rosario Dawson. I was like, I'm literally looking
at Ahsoka.
And Hera is the same way. Like when I first saw her, I'm like, that doesn't look like Hera.
Yeah.
But this season it does. Like the conversations that they're having are deep, and the
connection,
the dialogue between Hera and Ahsoka and between Hera and Sabine, it's so good. It's so good. And I think that they have created something really special for people like us and for people who may now be getting into Star Wars. I think that there's a lot of strong female leads in this series. So the people who are all about, they want to see more.
There's only been female characters.
But it's great. I mean, I think they're doing great. I hope to see Zeb.
I hope to see Zeb.
I want to see everyone on screen.
You never know. We might get a flashback to Kanan.
R.I.P.
If they get the voice actor that played him, that's going to be.
Well, what if they just do the whole world between worlds thing? And
because that's no. Because that's what Ezra tried to do. Remember, and Ahsoka stopped him.
He did it. That's why Ahsoka's alive.
Ahsoka's alive. No, but he was trying to get Kanan, but she stopped him because if he got Kanan, that would have messed up all the things. So if he was trying to go back to World Between Worlds, I feel like Ahsoka wouldn't allow him to go back and get Kanan because she stopped him in Rebels. That was a great point of him trying to go back, but since she already stopped him, I feel like that she tried to stop him again because because she's tried to.
Yeah, no, I think there will be some flashbacks with him in it, and I hope they get.
I heard Hayden Christensen is supposed to.
I've heard he's going to be.
His voice was in the freaking trailer. He's like, Ahsoka, you can do this. I'm like,
I'm pretty sure there's going to be flashbacks in this season, and if they do it right with Hayden and everything, and if they get Freddie Prinze Jr. to come, and he's the voice actor for Kanan, if they get him, because he will do it. He's already said he would do it. He already did his voice in whatever, The Last Jedi or whatever, or with Rey. Like his voice was in it with all the other Jedis.
If that happens, I will melt into a pile of bantha fodder. Be done forever.
Well, they can do so much with this because nobody wanted Rebels to end.
Yeah, dude.
Nobody wanted it to. Everybody wanted the next season where they found Ezra and they brought him back. That's what we're getting, but we're getting it in live action.
It's friggin' awesome.
And Filoni can write the heck out of some Star Wars stuff.
He can, man.
He just knows it. He's passionate about it. And
did he do anything with Bad Batch? Did he write?
Yeah. Then
I don't know if he created or.
I'm pretty sure he created it.
But see, that even fits. It just, I don't know. I'd love to see.
I like.
Are we going to get a Rex appearance this season?
Bro, get it because Ahsoka.
Like, are we gonna get that because he was? They have now confirmed that he was on the Battle of Endor. And he's in the movie.
Was. Yeah, that's the old guy with the white beard. That's him. That's the guy.
That's what I'm saying. So they did confirm it, yeah. So it does line up, but how far, okay, so from the end of Rebels, like how many years are we out? That's what I want to know because I don't truly know that right. I don't know what the true timeline is. I can Google it, and I will for the next one. I'll find all this information.
There's times in the episodes where I'm like, okay, like, so what exactly? I need like a BBY. I need to know the battle or before the Battle of Yavin for the people who don't know. I need to know. Like, I understand when the first season of Mandalorian took place 5 years after Return of the Jedi. They set that up. We know that, but like, I need a year. I need to know.
Yes, that's a good point because some things in Ahsoka go back with Rebels, which is during Return of the Jedi, but there's some things that go with Mandalorian later in the season, but that's 5 years after. So that's a good point. I wonder where and when, and
that's what we
know what
we can. Well, I mean, we can try to pull up a timeline of, and if that's how you want to, if we want to go about it, we can do. Here's a timeline for the Mandalorian. Where's a timeline for Ahsoka, and then we can also say, okay, we'll pull in Rebel because this is
spitting
obviously a continuance of Rebels. There's no doubt about it.
It's a spinning image. Spinning image.
Else.
So the image, I'm telling you, like the framework and like even when the Lothal cats are like poking their head out of the grass, I'm like, that's
what if we see love wolves, the force sensitive wolves?
There's so many just great shots and the framing and the editing, and it's like it's just pure for people who've never watched Rebels. understand like the excitement that we have or other people have, but that's what it feels like to watch Rebels is when you watch Ahsoka. So I don't know. I mean, obviously, I feel like you would need to watch Rebels to really understand, and in Clone Wars,
or later in Rebels,
and to understand what's going on. But I think that Disney does a good job too at like, even if you haven't seen, you can kind of jump in. Like my daughter Andy Grace hasn't seen all that, but she was interested in the show. Like you can watch it and be entertained, but I just think that there's so many good things happening. The cinematographer, who I'll have to look up his name, whoever was it on these 2 episodes, it's just great. Like the framing is beautiful, and the music. There's really cool sound design and sound effects when they were on that planet with the red trees. They were like these dark, ominous sounds that I don't think I've heard in Star Wars before. Like I'll have to go back and watch it, but I just love the sounds, and I listen to the music. There were a couple times where I was like, they're about to play Yoda's theme, and then it like was one note difference. Or like Leia's theme, and I'm like, are they about to? No.
Yeah, they played the you probably.
It was. Then I thought they were gonna play the actual Star Wars theme, and it's like they lead you into it, and it's one note different. Yeah. Like, why are they doing this to me?
Yes.
But it's so good, and just I like how we all have different opinions. Grayson was born after the prequels. We grew up on the original trilogy, and so it's like we all have these different viewpoints, and I like that we're all seeing Ahsoka tie into the larger Star Wars universe, and I think Jake hit the nail on the head. There's just questions. There's so many questions that I at first I thought these 2 red lightsaber wielding people were Inquisitors, but I think Jake, you're right that it's
there's something more.
Yeah, they're not Inquisitors.
They're holding on to some,
and they're not Sith either.
Usually Inquisitors cover their face.
Yeah, because he's holding on to something, and it's affecting her because she's second guessing the witch, and he was like holding on to something. So I think that's a good point, because the Inquisitor they were with, that's a good point. They cover up their face and like don't show.
I just want to point out one more thing. I know we could probably talk for hours, but I want to point out one more thing. Zany made a cool point when Sabina's getting her armor out. And just the small stuff like that, like it
sounded heavy.
It sounded heavy. He was like, her armor sounds heavy. Like that's the stuff that makes storytelling great. Like even though, like Zany said, it was probably what PVC or ABS. Yeah, it could be something, but like they made it because Beskar is heavy. Like they make it those small details for people like us. Like that means a lot to me because I'm like, you care enough about the story and about this universe and about the consistency between the movies and the TV shows, just the smallest thing of how something sounds when you put it on the ground. It's like, it sounds heavy, but it's also like emotionally heavy. Like it was such a scene when she knelt down and she pulled her helmet up. It reminded me a lot of when Boba Fett held Jango Fett's head. She was knelt down in the dark and holding up the helmet
and looking at it.
And it was just such a cool moment. And I'm like, I love the fact that they use the previously made movies and TV shows and sound effects to tie in, and it be such a consistency and a branding, which most people probably don't think that way, but just for me, I love it because it makes me feel like it's one big story. When you use sound effects and colors and music and scores, it makes it feel like it's all one big consistent story. And like Jake said, it is literally the next season of Rebels. Like it just is and I even said that a couple of times. We're like watching. I would look up at Jake. I'm like, this feels like freaking Rebels. Like it's like page for page. Like it's so crazy how you can have a cartoon, which it is an animated show,
and it's an amazing show.
It really is.
Watch it if you haven't.
If you haven't watched Rebels, freaking watch Rebels.
Fantastic.
But you can go from an animated show that was how long ago did the last season of Rebels air?
Wasn't it like
the last season?
Was it before COVID? Like, wasn't it? It was before COVID.
So as Jake's looking this up on his phone, where I'm going with this is like you have an animated series that ended years ago, and then you've got a live action series with actors that we've never seen in these roles, and it just goes to show that when you have the right person directing and editing and storyboarding and storytelling and writing and all this other stuff, that like you can literally, like the time difference between stories, it doesn't matter. Like Rogue One, one of my favorite Star Wars movies, and that literally took place, and it was like seconds before A New Hope started, and it's like there's just the consistency of it is is awesome that you can take an animated show 6 years.
6 years.
2017. 6 years, and they literally. I can tell you right now, this show brought me right back to where I was in 2017 when they.
What grade was I in? That was 6. I was in third grade when that season came out.
I don't know what it's like to be normal, because I feel like the four of us aren't normal.
No.
Stuff. But like, just like you were saying, the opening scene is a direct callback. I know it's late. We got to stop. Talk about this forever. But the opening scene is a direct callback, and it's like when you see images like that, and you grew up on those images, or you have such an emotional connection with those images, and then you see something like that 6 years later, like, how does that make y'all feel?
Yeah, like I know I didn't grow up on like the originals or anything, but I know there's so many shots of like ships flying over like the cameras and all that, but I really feel like that this show, like when I saw that, it just brought me right back to it brought me right back to when he first introduced me to the originals. Like it just reminded me of like the original shots of it, the shots of Rebels, like all kinds of different things, like even just like the smallest little things.
For someone, that's a cool point, Grayson. I appreciate you sharing that. And it's for the older people, as we end, we'll close with this. How does it, like, how would you explain it to someone who may not be such as a big Star Wars fan as maybe we are? How is it, like, what are your thoughts? Like, how does that make you feel as growing up literally from kids collecting the old toys and, like, you know, seeing Star Wars material and content that's made at such a high quality and level of excellence? Like, can you try to explain how that, like, that thought process of, like, I don't know if I'm even making sense, but it's like, it's hard to explain to people who aren't such big fans that like one shot of a live action series that you've never seen can bring back so many like emotions and connections to previous Star Wars content. And it's like how did that feel when you, like, what kind of emotions? I don't know if I'm making sense, but
I think you're making sense. It's hard to explain an emotion, because this is, like you said, we've all grown up with this. So when we see it, it's ingrained in us. Like, it's like, yes, that's what I wanted. I wanted to see that. The fact that they opened up with the
original
the text scroll.
The text scroll.
Yes.
I mean,
wasn't quite 3D, but it was still rolling
But they
up.
did it in what? They did it in red. Wasn't it red?
Yeah.
But it was blue?
It was blue.
Okay.
I thought it was red.
I
don't know. It was a
but
color.
either way,
It wasn't yellow.
the fact that they opened up with that, and then they came in
With
the
the
ship.
ship.
Yeah.
That is Star Wars at its best.
Yeah.
And as far as an emotion, I'm just happy. Like, I'm so happy to see that something I've loved since I was, young. My mom introduced me to Star Wars because her and my dad went and saw it in 1977 when they were seniors in high school. My mom was like, "You're going to like this." And I absolutely loved it, you know? I've loved it since I can remember. I can remember being sick and being like, "Oh, I'm going to put on Star Wars because I don't have anything else to do today."
I would watch Empire Strikes Back like multiple times in one day and then just not get tired of it
No, but, and so think of that and think of how much we've expanded on that universe. That's what I get excited about. Like, I'm so excited about this because of how much it's grown and how many different stories we have. Boba Fett is amazing. He is one of the most iconic characters from the original trilogy. We know so much more about him, but then you introduce all these other things from the Clone Wars, from Rebels, about the Mandalorians themselves. And I love the Jedi. But the Mandalorians are so cool. Like, what else can you say? Like, they literally built their stuff from Beskar and did things so they could fight Jedi without being force sensitive. So everything they've done is to straight up fight Jedi without being force sensitive.
Like,
that's just amazing. Like, that's so cool.
Zany said it on me a couple years ago, and I can't quote it, but he said, like, what a time to be alive with all this Star Wars content. Like, you know, the people who grew up watching the original trilogy and may have passed away, or, you know, like this time and era in life where we have all this content. You know, Zany was like, I'll always love everything Star Wars because it's Star Wars, and, you know, it's like just this one big book. Like, every chapter may not be as great as the chapter before it, but it's all tied into this big story. And I'm not hating on like Star Trek because it does suck compared to this, or like Harry Potter. But like, people like
Harry Potter's lame.
This is a franchise that like I don't think anything else besides like maybe superheroes, because they were around in like the 30s or something. But we have Jake, you said we have so much history and so many years of content to pull from that. Like when people like us who are nearly 40, that kind of hurts to say, see something like this, like the inner kid in us is pulled out. So it's like I can't think of any other fan base.
It's almost like a big family tree. It's like it starts off with the originals and then it breaks off into all these different separate storylines and all kinds of other things that make Star Wars.
I don't think there's any other fan base or franchise that has been around this, and I could be wrong, but it's been around this long that has this type of fan base that can still tell new stories but emotionally capture everything that we as grown men and as kids on the inside, as younglings in the Jedi Temple, we love. I think Jake, you said it right, man. It's just I'm satisfied. I'm very happy, and I just feel I'm just very happy that they have trusted the right people to put in the director's spot and the writer's spot. Like they trusted Filoni. I'm glad that Filoni had his chance because everything he's done is built up to this. You know what I'm saying? Everything they trusted him with, and George Lucas, and they created Ahsoka and all these things. So it's like you have the Clone Wars, and you have Rebels, and you have Mando. Then now you have Ahsoka. So it's like it just goes to show that like trust the creative people. You know what I'm saying? Like the people who know what they're doing. And so I'm really happy that they hit this one on the head. And I think that because this show is doing so well, and I can only imagine, I don't know how many episodes are in this season, but I think there's going to be more seasons to come and more new characters and more stories to tell.
I think this opens up for a season, even though we're saying Ahsoka is season 5 of Rebels, it's not. Yeah. This definitely opens up for a live action season 5 of Rebels. I mean, it does, but what I like about Star Wars is that, yes, I'm always going to throw back to Vader because he's the ultimate all-time best villain ever, and he was redeemed. So remember that he was redeemed. But I love the fact that Star Wars can get away from the Skywalker saga and take on so many different avenues and tell us so many different stories. That's what I love about Star Wars. It's, yes, we can say that every movie has been about the Skywalker saga. Whatever, that's fine. But now, when you've watched the Clone Wars, you've watched Rebels, you're watching Ahsoka, you're watching Mandalorian, you're getting into the underworld of Star Wars, and that's where all the cool stuff takes place.
I know it's late. You might have anything else you want to say about the Ahsoka show? I know it's our first podcast. We're all excited and nerds, and we're like straight off of a high of watching episode 2. By the way, these are the best friends ever. They did not watch. I'm assuming they didn't.
Oh, I didn't watch.
They didn't watch episode 2. They waited. Like, that's how much they love me. Y'all need friends like I have. They're the best. They're the best ever. They were like, hey, we're not going to watch episode 2 because we were supposed to watch both episodes last night and just whatever, and we couldn't. So we all watched episode 1 on our own and then 2 together tonight. Jake drove like 45 minutes to an hour. He's got to go all the way back home. So, anybody else have anything else they want to say before we wrap it up? And, Zany, anything else you want to say? Zany is the wise Yoda who just sits in the back and makes me question everything I know about Star Wars. This dude knows so much, and Jake too. So anyway, I'm so glad to have you guys on this podcast. Jake Turberville. That's just so weird saying that. Turberville? Turber or Turba? Turber. Yep. I'm such an idiot for not knowing that. Anyways, Jake Turberville and Zany Madcap, find them on Instagram and on Facebook. We're gonna keep this going, and we'll do many more podcasts for Star Wars movies and TV shows. And Grayson and Chris, Jake Turberville and Zany Madcap, give us a like and subscribe. I'm not sure which platform these are going to be streaming on, probably iTunes and Spotify, but we're gonna post the video to YouTube so you can look at our beautiful faces and our R2D2, and then we'll post the audio on other things. So just want to say thank you to our guests. Y'all are my first podcast guests for the movies and entertainment portion of this podcast. So I'm excited to have you here. We're going to do more. This is just the beginning. So for everyone listening, may the force be with you, and
always.
We will see you next time.
Yep.